The United Arab Emirates claims to be a world leader on high-tech solutions to climate change and is hosting the COP28 climate conference in Dubai, one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world.
صراحة عندي القلق بتحسي لازمك أكسجين ما تضطري تعملي.
The country suffers from seasonal dust storms, which are often blamed for the bad air quality here. With exclusive scientific research, we can reveal how the UAE's oil and gas industry is making its air pollution problem even worse. But it's not just here.
If you're coughing, you use it. Those coughs, the bad ones.
The pollution comes from gas flaring, where excess gas from oil production is intentionally burned.
قحاتي دم؟
ايه دمي يطيح من قد الشبوب.
هناك زيادة في عدد الأمراض الصدرية، في عدد المرضى.
The oil industry and governments have long agreed this avoidable practice must end.
This is man-made air pollution that we can in fact eliminate.
In the UAE, some of the worst flaring is hidden away from the public on rigs out at sea. Across the Gulf, from Iran and Iraq to Kuwait, we will reveal how the health of millions is being put at risk by the toxic flares.
احنا اللي ندفع الضريبة، ضريبة من صحتنا، من عمرنا، شنو المقابل؟
يعني أنا هسه من أفحط أظل أسعل من الربو، يعني مريتي أنا ملتهبة، أنا ما أقدر أمشي هواي يعني من على مريتي. خزي أي.
Samira is one of the 20 million people walking as part of the annual Shia pilgrimage of Arbaeen, which starts in Basra, southern Iraq. This part of the 700-kilometre route is highly polluted as it crosses through areas just meters from gas flares, including the town where Samira lives.
تقريبا صار لي 17 سنة احنا مندرنا هنا بالبصرة. أنا عندي مرض من قبل ربو هاي، بس هسه المرض اللي أعاني من عده هنا صار بي، يعني من درت بالبصرة هنا. أي أكثرية الشيء يقولوا لي يعني جزء من هاي المحارق هاي تيكم يعني بسبب الوساخة هاي. مو بس أنا هاي شيء، هو حتى الناس هاي اليمنى والله صار بيها هاي الأمراض نفسها.
In 2022, our BBC Arabic investigation exposed how oil giants' toxic air pollution puts children living next to the flares at risk of cancer. Now we're investigating how this almost entirely avoidable pollution spreads across the region and how it impacts people's health hundreds of kilometres away.
حصرا الثاني عند الحاجة. حياك الله. عندك لعبان نفس؟ قد عمرك؟ 30.
Volunteer nurses on the Arbaeen route say that many pilgrims are reporting health issues.
استقبلنا الكثير من الحالات الطبية داخل المفرزة. عن نفسي عالجت واستقبلت كثير من الحالات اللي حالات الأسمة بسبب سوء تلوث الطقس والأحوال الجوية داخل البصرة.
The biggest source of flaring here is from a giant oil field called Rumaila, managed by BP and PetroChina. The BBC has found that it has the highest levels of flaring in the world. These oil fields run by BP, PetroChina, Russian company Lukoil and Italian Eni flare around the clock, every day. Instead of burning the gas, it could be captured and used to power people's homes. The Iraqi government and Shell set up the Basra Gas Company to do just that in 2013. But since then, overall levels of flaring have stayed roughly the same. And this is what it looks like at the company headquarters now.
تفضل 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 حجي. شنو اسمك الكريم؟
سميرة كامل عباس.
سميرة كامل
عباس.
38 سنة عمرك؟
38 سنة عمري.
تمام.
Samira has come to see Dr. Tariq, a respiratory specialist, as her asthma has worsened.
راوين التحاليل مالتك؟
كون الشايع.
التهابات. تمام. قحيتي دم؟
ايه دمي يطيح من عدة شبوط.
تمام شبوط.
After carrying out tests, the doctor prescribed Samira a new inhaler to help manage her condition.
أحد يدخن قدامك؟
ما عندي.
تراب، برودة زايدة، عطر معطر قوي، زاهي، فلاش، بنزين، غاز، نفط، هذا كله من الأنواع.
كله من الوقت. تعال.
يلا عندك العافية إن شاء الله.
كويس تعال
أوكي.
قال مثل هذا سنتي جريبة للنفط، دخان النفط مو زين عليك. صحيح هي كثيرة الدخان وهاي، بس أنا بعد وين أمشي؟ هاي معيشتي هنا بيها، وين أروح؟ أنا مستقرة بيها.
Iraq's national oil company operates the field close to Samira's house. It's just hundreds of meters away.
قبل الرجال شوي كان يساعدني، بس من راح كل شيء انتهى. يعني الحمل هذا حملني لي أنا تحملت فيه بنات أو هاي. يعني تدري إن من المرض من الأطفال تريد الأطفال يردون مدارس. هنا عندنا المحارج زود سنة عن سنة، كان بس بذاك الكتر هسه داروها، هسه بيها حاليا قبل شهر صار هنا هسه محطة وحدة، وهناك وحدة على جزء بيع. يعني بيوم اللي يصير هواء ترجع علينا دخانها وشيها علينا. أنا أنتهي من الدخان يعني.
Oil companies and governments do not share how toxic the pollution from their flaring is. But you can see these flares from space. We wanted to investigate the impact of these flares on air quality, not just for those like Samira who live nearby, but also people living hundreds of kilometers away. So we worked with European environmental scientists Arianet to build a model across 2 months in 2022. They gathered public data on flaring volumes provided by the World Bank, as well as regional weather conditions, including wind patterns, and used peer-reviewed studies to estimate the concentration of pollutants in the flares. These maps are based exactly on the scientists' findings, so that we can reveal the hidden impact of the pollution on millions of people's health.
وعليكم السلام. هلا حبيبي، شلونك؟ شو أخبارك؟
Dr. Ziad Tariq speaks at health conferences around the world about respiratory disease. He was not alone in telling the BBC that southern Iraq is experiencing a health crisis.
مع الأسف احنا ما عندنا إحصائية رسمية، لكن من خلال مشاهداتي لاحظت هناك زيادة في عدد الأمراض الصدرية، في عدد المرضى. هذا بس دخله بحلقة. أنا أريد نفس عميق، وبعدين تنفخ أقوى شيء عندك وباستمرار. أوكي؟ العامل الأول عوامل التلوث اللي هي مختلفة عندنا، مثل عوامل الغاز المصاحب للنفط، كثرة الازدحام وكثرة السيارات وكثرة العواصف الرملية بسبب الاحتباس الحراري. أتمنى لك حياة سعيدة. شكرا لك، الله يخليك. أعتقد يعني أن البصرة بعد 5 وربما 5-6 سنوات ممكن الكل يصاب بأمراض الصدرية والتنفسية.
The pollution here in Basra can be damaging even to those just passing through as pilgrims. One of the most dangerous types of air pollution is PM2.5. Our model shows that from flares alone, levels of PM2.5 were more than double the daily limit set by the World Health Organization. This type of pollution is made up of thousands of particles that are harmful to human health.
So You're thinking of something that is less than 2.5 micrometer, but the human hair is 70 micrometers, so that is how tiny these particles are. Because they're tiny and small, they travel all the way from your nose and mouth. So when this happens, what happens to the lungs? The particles go straight in there into this very thin lining and to your bloodstream. And once it's your bloodstream, it's all over your organs. Your heart is going to pump this blood. Guess where these particles will land? Everywhere. Your kidneys, your brain, your heart, everywhere. This can lead to an acute asthmatic attack. At some point, it could be very life-threatening.
Many of the pilgrims in Basra have come from Ahwaz in Iran, where gas flaring levels are also extremely high. Iranians have spoken out about the pollution using hashtags such as Ahwaz can't breathe. Speaking out about environmental issues in Iran can get you arrested, but locals agreed to speak to us anonymously.
در سالهای اخیر به دلیل افزایش آلودگی هوا، بیماری‌های تنفسی در اینجا افزایش یافته.
هوای عسلویه دائما آلوده است و متاسفانه حجم و شدت شعله‌ها بیشتر هم شده.
15% of premature deaths in this region are caused by air pollution, according to peer-reviewed studies.
در داروخانه‌ها و بیمارستان‌ها تعداد زیادی از مردم نیازمند داروهای تنفسی هستند که همین هم باعث کمبود این داروها شده.
یعنی کل منطقه انگار توی دود متراکم و خاکستری غرق شده. خود اهالی عسلویه معتقدن بیشترشون به سرطان مبتلا میشن و حتی بعضیا میگن آمار مرگ و میر ناشی از سرطان و بیماری‌های ناشناخته بیشتر شده.
Global health data shows that deaths from cancer have increased by 21% in Asaluya and 36% in Ahwaz over the past decade. Our new research estimates that a cancer-causing pollutant known as benzoaperine is spreading from these flares at levels that exceed international standards by at least 10 times. A quarter of all the world's gas flaring happens in Iran and Iraq. The model shows that pollution from these flares travels across borders, reaching as far as Kuwait, 140 kilometers south of Basra. The country has some of the worst air quality in the world. This is often blamed on dust storms.
وأن في دولة الكويت الترابة إن شاء الله ما توصلكم بس هي بالاتجاه مالتكم.
توقف حركة الملاحة البحرية والجوية بسبب العاصفة الترابية الشديدة التي ضربت مختلف مناطق البلاد.
في الكويت أعلن الطيران المدني تعليق حركة الملاحة الجوية بسبب موجة من الغبار تشهدها البلاد.
Our investigation reveals the wind carries something more dangerous than the dust.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job.
If you're coughing, you use it. Those coughs, the bad ones. Deep breath make you calm down.
صح.
But this one is for kids. That one is for dad.
Because I have asthma like you.
This one is funny. It's like a gun's like, oh. It's like a laser gun.
I know. It's laser gun. فصارت البخاخات عندنا يعني نفس شرب الماء. وايد اطفال بالكويت فيهم الازمه. عندي ابنائي يشكون من هذا المرض. بس اكثر واحد اللي يعني من العيال جاسم. اول مره حشيت يعني الازمه اذكر يعني انه كان ما في يعني التنفس يعني عظمه تصير زرق شويه. يعني انا اخاف. مع عيالي خاصه مخي يوقف ما ما ادري شلون اتصرف. اقعد انا برا انطره، اسمع امه يتفاهم وياهم، هي اقوى مني بهالموضوع، انا مو قوي.
This opens.
يعني سنه كامله انحرم من المدرسه يعني بس بيت، غرفته، صاله. اذا شفت اليوم مثلا في غبار عن طريق البرنامج وذر وانه في يعني ما ودي مدرسه، يعني ما اغامر بحياه ولدي.
لما كنت أصحى من النوم أول شيء كنت تشوفه، خصوصاً في أوقات الربيع في الكويت، إن أنت تطلع على الشباك، تشوف الشباك. إذا كان لون الشباك لونه برتقالي أو أصفر، معناته أن اليوم عايشنا غبار في الكويت.
From his base at Harvard University, Dr. Barak Al-Ahmed studies the impact of air pollution on people's health in the Gulf region.
أنا شخصياً لما كنت في عمر 6 و7 و8 سنوات كنت أعاني من الربو، وأعتقد أن إحنا لما كنا نروح المدرسة ومعنا الانهيلر هذا كنا نحطه داخل المقلمة معنا وناخذه معنا في الشنطة، لما كنا نروح المدرسة كان أغلب الأطفال اللي معي كلنا عندنا الانهيلر، كلنا عندنا هذا البخاخ مال الربو اللي موجود عندنا.
Dr. Al-Ahmed and his team spent 2 years analysing Kuwait's air and dust to find out where the pollution was coming from.
If you say that the air pollution in Kuwait is all from dust, then you can throw your hands in the air and say, there's nothing I can do about it. But in fact, that is not the case. Actually, what we found out, that only 40% comes from the desert. 42% comes from sources that involve power plants and involve the oil industry and involves all the industry that is in Kuwait and outside of Kuwait. This is man-made air pollution that we can regulate, we can reduce, we can in fact eliminate.
Kuwait's oil and gas industry is a major contributor to its own pollution. But our model indicates that flaring from Iraq is having a significant impact too, spreading not only PM2.5 but other pollutants, producing ozone, which adds to the toxic smog in Kuwait City, and releasing nitrogen dioxide, or NO2.
NO2, it just directly irritates the lining of the lungs, and that could induce some sort of inflammation. It can have heart disease risk. Now, ozone also does the same thing. When you breathe this gas, this is a gas, this is not a particle, so ozone comes and causes this kind of inflammation and damage to the cells.
The model shows these chemicals being carried from the flares in Iraq as far as Abdul Rahman's house.
شوفني أشبهك وايد، صح؟
صح.
أنا أشبهك ولا تشبهني؟
You look like me.
Some of Abdul Rahman's first memories of his asthma are from Kuwait's oil fires when the country was invaded by Iraq in 1991.
Amid the burning oil wells of Kuwait, two armies faced each other on the edge of battle.
من أيام الغزو يقول لي 6 سنين 7 سنين عمري، الوضع كان جدا متعب، يعني كانت السماء عز الظهر سوداء، تلوث جدا جدا عالي كان، فهني بلشت الأزمة زيادة. العراق حرق حرق حرق، احنا حرق، يعني مصيبة. ما عندنا النولج احنا بالكويت، ما عندنا النولج ان في إن عندنا بلوشن وعندنا مشاكل، ان هذا قاعد تأثر على الصحة، تأثر على الرئة، تأثر على الأطفال، حق المستقبل، ما في. وين هذا؟
Doctors.
Because the asthma, صح؟
Yeah.
Getting bad. Did you cry?
I cried a little.
What did you feel there?
I like it kind of like that a few weeks.
The UAE claims that the environment is one of its main priorities.
The world needs maximum energy, minimum emissions.
And this year is hosting the World Climate Summit, COP28. As part of this push, the country's energy giant Abu Dhabi National Oil Company claims to be a leader in reducing flaring.
I am very pleased to say that over 20 oil and gas companies have positively answered the call to step up and eliminate routine flaring by 2030.
But our analysis of satellite data shows the UAE hasn't reduced its flaring over the past decade. And we found that despite the company's policy of zero routine flaring, ADNOC has actually increased flaring in these 3 offshore oil and gas sites. Satellite images from the past 5 years show black smoke billowing from this offshore site run by the company. COP28 President Dr. Sultan Al Jaber is responsible for these flares as chief executive of ADNOC.
I've never seen a cough and asthma as much as I've seen in the UAE.
A respiratory doctor spoke to us anonymously because here any criticism can result in imprisonment. She worked in top hospitals around the world before moving to the UAE.
It's a country that is doing amazing on all fronts, but there is a growing economy and it's booming like crazy. And with respect to everybody, that doesn't come without a price. I was shocked that all through the year, the pollution is very, very high. Early on, I was like, why is everybody coughing here? Like, you have the flu, you cough for a few days, and then the cough is gone. In the UAE, it takes a week, 2 weeks, and sometimes we even have to give the patients inhalers to remove a simple cough.
Our model indicates that the UAE's own offshore flaring contributes to high levels of air pollution in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, even though these flares are hundreds of kilometers away, producing damaging pollutants including PM2.5, ozone, and NO2. We spoke to a patient with severe asthma who lives in Abu Dhabi.
آخر مرة حسيت بالعوارض كانت كتير زيادة عن من فترة 10 سنين. هذه الفترة كلها تعرضت لضيق تنفس، رحت طوارئ مرتين اخذ الاكسجين اقدر اتنفس، يعني ما تقدري تتنفسي عن جد، تحسي اوجاع من عند الصدر للانف كله. ضيق التنفس اللي هو اكثر شيء اللي بيضايق، بيصاحبه السعال لانك ما تقدري تتنفسي، بتحسي لازمك اكسجين ما تقدري تعملي، تحسي الهواء مش صافي، الهواء مغبر. يعني يمكن هذه القصص أشياء ما بنشوفها.
High levels of PM2.5 are not only linked to lung disease, but can also cause heart problems. Yet the UAE has not set a legal limit for this dangerous pollutant.
صراحة عندي القلق. أيوة عندي القلق. وبحس أحاسيس أوقات كأنه قلبي، ورحت مرتين فحصت يعني تخطيط قلب، ما بعرف إذا هو موصول يمكن لأنه قريب من الرئة، ما بعرف شو العلاقة، بس بحس شيء بدقات القلب، يعني يجيني كأنه ما قادرة أتنفس.
According to the WHO, 75% of deaths from heart disease in the UAE occur in those under the age of 70. That's higher than any other country in the world, except one, Kuwait. Both countries have a population that is especially vulnerable to air pollution, according to Dr. Al Ahmed.
We have high levels of diabetes, we have high levels of obesity, and we have high levels of asthma, for example, in kids. So these vulnerabilities that are in the population will make air pollution actually more toxic when this population is exposed.
For the first time, this year's COP28 climate conference will have a special day focusing on health.
It is time for every nation to sign COP28's declaration on food systems and health.
But our investigation has shown that air pollution from the UAE's oil and gas industry may be putting its own population at heightened risk. despite its claims to be a global climate leader.
What is inside the bag?
Pencils,
Yeah.
teas,
That's what?
my water bottle.
Jasim's parents have decided it's time for a big change in his life.
الحين باكر ان شاء الله الابتدائي اول يوم له، فان شاء الله يعني يتاقلم يعني مع الاطفال. Are you happy؟
Yeah.
اكيد مستانس انه راح يشوف عالم جديد، راح يشوف اطفال جدد، راح يكون له صداقات ونشوف حالته مع الازمه. بس ان شاء الله ما نقدر نقول ان شاء الله. لما يجي عندي التلوث انا اشوف مستقبلهم شنو. Are you ready؟
Yeah.
يعني انت عندك انت الريجن الخليجي اكثر دول مستخرجه للنفط وتبيع. شنو المقابل؟
Cheese.
علينا احنا مو على حد ثاني، احنا اللي ندفع الضريبه. ضريبه من صحتنا، من عمرنا،